Amazon Prime's Invincible does not live up to the hype that has been built up for it. Despite critical acclaim, I don't believe that Invincible constitutes as a good adaptation. There are several factors that end up overshadowing the very few redeeming qualities that the show offers compared to its comic book counterpart. Invincible is an adult animated superhero series that was created for the Amazon Prime streaming service in 2021 and is based on the Image Comics comic book of the same name. The series was started by Robert Kirkman and co-created with comic book artists/writers Cory Walker and Ryan Ottley. Invincible follows the story of Mark Grayson, who is played by Steven Yeun, and his transformation into a superhero. Mark is guided by his father, Omni-Man, played by J.K. Simmons, who is the most powerful superhero on the planet. Mark struggles to find balance between his personal life and superhero duties while attempting to prove to the world that he can be the superhero his father is. The animated series has garnered widespread critical acclaim specifically for its action sequences, story, voice acting, and emotional weight. After spending a lot of time reading through all of Invincible's comics and watching the animated series, I begin to wonder. Now, before I begin to talk about the animated adaptation of Invincible, I think it's important to lay the groundwork to what I believe constitutes as a good adaptation. According to a blog post by Hound Studios called Animation and Literature, Adaptations Translating Books into Animated Films and Series, in regards to book-to-series adaptations, they go on to say that the source material is expanded and divided into episodes, allowing for a more comprehensive exploration of the story and its intricacies. This format often gives creators the opportunity to delve deeper into the world and characters, allowing for a more immersive experience. Along with that, they go on to discuss that with adapting a series into animation, it allows for the series to have the freedom of adding motion, sound, and dynamic visuals. This description is what I believe constitutes as a good adaptation. A good example of a good adaptation is the shonen manga series Jujutsu Kaisen by Gege Akutami, which was later adapted into animation by Mappa Studios back in 2020. Something that I find interesting too is that although the exact budget of Jujutsu Kaisen hasn't been publicly released, it's widely believed to be high-end, which leads to a total budget of $2 million. In comparison, Invincible had a budget for $22 million. Just some food for thought. Now, before I start my critique of Invincible, I do want to touch up the positives that the series has to offer because there truly are some really cool and fun additions and improvements that the show has. I want to start with the addition of original scenes that weren't in the comic books and the polishing of plot lines from the comics. I want to start with this in particular because it's actually really cool to look at it through the lens that this is Robert Kirkman's second go at Invincible. It allows him to not only add things he wished he would have added in the comics, but also to go in and remove things that he or the fans didn't like in retrospect. Now, these additions include, but are not limited to, the polishing of Amber and William's characters/story arcs, the inclusion of the implication that Omni-Man attempts to take his own life, and Mark calling out the Cecil in desperation during his fight with Conquest, who is played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Amber and William are already great characters from the comic book. However, they go through specific character arcs that end up making you ask yourself, what was the point of that? These story arcs include a scene in which Amber is physically assaulted by her boyfriend Gary, and then the character William starting off as heterosexual at the beginning of the series, and is suddenly homosexual as the story progresses. The show polishes this by completely removing the plotline of Amber being abused by her boyfriend, and has William being homosexual from the very beginning, which I believe to be less jarring and more enjoyable to watch. Following this is the scene where Omni-Man attempts to take his own life by jumping into a black hole. The series builds up Omni-Man with the big reveal that he is actually evil and not to be trusted, and later on eventually goes through a redemption arc. I think that the addition of this scene provides an extra layer of depth to Omni-Man's existential crisis that the audience watches him go through as he experiences his redemption arc. Finally is the scene where during his battle with Conquest, Mark proceeds to call out to Cecil in desperation for help.
No, stop. Don't try to talk, okay? It's Cecil! I need you, Cecil! Please keep breathing.
There's very little I have to say about the scene besides the fact that I think this makes the scene even more chilling than it was in the comic, and I was genuinely disappointed to know that this was an animated series only scene. The other positives that the show has is in some of its early animation and cinematography, which is absolutely stunning, as well as containing some of the best voice acting performances of recent animation. These scenes include Cecil and Mark versus Omni-Man at the end of Season 1, and the arrival/fight between Mark and Conquest at the end of Season 3.
Why did you make me do this? You're fighting so you can watch everyone around you die. Think, Mark!
The animators did a spectacular job bringing these scenes to life, and Stephen Yeun, J.K. Simmons, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan's performances enriched these scenes with so much emotion and intensity. It's important to note, too, that these particular scenes completely broke the internet when they were released, both as absolute hits and in meme culture. Now it's time to unravel the many problems that Invincible has. To start things off is the overall length and pacing of episodes. Each season contains 8 episodes, all of which are nearly 48 minutes long and contain nearly 10-minute plus post-credit scenes when Season 2 starts. Because of the length of episodes tend to drag on and try to incorporate way too much information in a single episode. Invincible could easily have episodes be 24 minutes long and have more than 8 episodes to keep stories engaging and digestible. Episodes, because of the length, often incorporate too many plot lines, which makes them feel all over the place and tend to disrupt the main plot of the episode. One episode in Season 2 nearly has 7 different plot lines. This also has to do with the rearrangement of different plot lines from the comics, in addition of original plot lines that feel lazily thrown together and don't disrupt the status quo of the series, and thus there's not really much of a reason to care about them. It can also be a confusing transition from the comics to the animated series, or vice versa. Although earlier I was praising the series for its animation and voice acting, Invincible also has some really bad sections of animation, and some of the voice acting is left to be desired. At times, the spots where CGI is used, it sticks out like a sore thumb and is almost distracting for viewers as it completely clashes with the animation. There's even parts where Mark is flying through the skies and just looks like a PNG image as opposed to fluid animation. I was also left disappointed at J.K. Simmons' performance in one of the most vital storylines of Season 2, and was astonished to see Seth Rogen, who plays Alan the Alien, give him a run for his money, as Simmons felt as if he was just reading from the script, and the editors decided to reuse the same soundbite of Simmons saying yes multiple times.
I missed you.
This was all you? Bringing me here?
Yes,
The Thraxians told me that they needed my help.
they do need your help.
Why?
It's complicated. Come with me and...
Now, why would you lie to me again?
Ultimately, I believe that Amazon Prime's Invincible falls short as an adaptation of Image Comics' Invincible. The negatives of the series end up overshadowing the few redeeming qualities that the series does have to offer. It's important to know, however, that I still believe the series is enjoyable to watch despite its several flaws and remains some of the best animated television of our generation. Whether or not you are a fan of the Invincible comics and enjoy superhero media, you absolutely should give the series a chance. And if you already watched Invincible and loved it, well then you need to put everything else aside and pick up the comics as soon as possible because it's certainly peak fiction.